Episode 12.
Welcome to the Live Fit podcast with your host, Glenn Johnson. Today you will learn techniques for permanent weight loss and improved overall health.
Oh, yes. Thank you for listening. This is the Live Fit podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Johnson, and this is episode 12. Today I have my Australian cousin and nutritionist, Caralyn Dea. She used to work in the Nestle test kitchen, making and baking foods from chocolate. Can you imagine that? She'd wake up in the morning, go to work, and eat chocolate all day. She would find new recipes and unique things to make out of chocolate, and then she would test them. I'm sure not everything was great, but hey, it's chocolate, right? So how much weight do you think she gained? Well, she's going to tell us. After she left Nestle, she bought a juice bar franchise and built up from 4 to 30 locations. She's a pretty awesome woman. You're really going to like her. Before I get in with her interview, I'd like to answer last week's question of the week. Which burns more calories, walking 3 miles or running 3 miles? Well, the answer is they both burn about the same. That's because you're covering the same distance. The same work was performed. Yes, running is faster, but you complete it sooner. Walking is slower, burns less calories per minute, but it takes longer. I would like to thank everybody for listening, rating, and leaving reviews on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. If you haven't already done so, I would really appreciate it. It seriously makes a big difference for the health of the show. The easiest way you can do this is to go to livefitlean.com/iTunes or /Stitcher. Either way, please keep telling your friends. They just might hear something that will help them live fit. Now it's time to begin my interview with Caralyn Dea. Okay, I have Caralyn Dea on the line from Darwin, Australia. Caralyn, thanks for joining me on the Live Fit podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to be here.
So what's the weather like down under right now? It's cold and windy here. It's about 40 degrees, maybe a little bit less. How about where you are?
Well, in Darwin, Darwin is in the tropics, and so we rarely get a day below 90, and lately we've been having sort of about 96 to 100 degrees, and our humidity is up around the 85 to 95% during the day. So it's very, very hot, very different to you guys. I
when you say 90, I am assuming you're meaning Fahrenheit, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
I can speak both languages.
You're bilingual.
I am.
And we'll get into that on why you are in a little while. But first, let's. How about if you give us a little bit of background about your history and why I have you on the phone here, why I'm interviewing you.
Okay. Well, I guess I've been active for most of my life, or all of my life, really. I'd see something and always want to have a go at it. So when I was younger, I was into athletics and tennis. I play netball, which Americans don't really play at all.
So that's like basketball, is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of like basketball, but I suppose the greatest differences would be that there's no backboard behind the net, and once you have the ball in your hands, you can't move. So you can spin around in a circle, but you can't actually walk or dribble the ball. So I suppose that would be my sport of choice. Mm-hmm. I did softball, and I'm into cycling and walking and just generally being active.
Okay, great. And you've also have a background in nutrition. You went to school to study nutrition, and then you had a career in it?
Yeah, that's right. I went to the University of Western Sydney, and I studied a Bachelor of Applied Science in Food and Nutrition. So I came out of that able to work in the food industry or become a nutritionist.
And so when you graduated, what did you do?
When I graduated, I actually went and got a job with Nestle, which is a fantastic company to work for. And I worked in their home economics department. So I was developing recipes using Nestle products.
Is that chocolate?
Yes, lots and lots and lots of chocolate. And it was really great fun, and I loved it, except there was always just one little thing that really grated on my ethics, I suppose, and that was that I was essentially promoting bad food to good people. And, you know, trying to get them to, say, buy more chocolate or buy more sweetened condensed milk. And that was something that never really sat right with me.
So did they have any healthy products that you did stand behind?
Yeah, they do. They have the Carnation brand, which they have evaporated milk. And so, you know, you can make curries and different products using that. So you would use, say, the evaporated milk instead of coconut milk. So you'd cut your fat down by about 40%. And stir fries, things like that, that you can use a lot of different Nestle brands in. And so that's really healthy.
But mostly you were dealing with chocolate, right?
Mostly I was dealing with baking and chocolate and sugar and, yeah, all that kind of stuff.
How long did you do this?
I was there for 2 years.
And do you like chocolate now?
I still love chocolate.
Oh, it didn't make you dislike it?
No, I love it. I still love chocolate, but I don't eat that much of it. I try not to.
Well, there goes that theory. I was thinking you might get aversion therapy from the overabundance of chocolate during that period of time.
I wish. But, you know, it's sugar is got to be one of the most addictive substances on the planet. So when you start to eat a lot of sugar, you crave more sugar and you want more sugar, and actually, when I left, I had to really sort of wean myself away from sweet foods.
Yeah, I've experienced that before too. And the less I have of something like that, something sweet, the less I want. The more I have, the more I want. You worked at Nestle for 2 years. How much weight did you gain?
I reckon I gained about 6. I think at my most I would have gained about 8 kilos.
Well, that's not bad. I mean, for 2 years working in a chocolate factory and being there to make and eat chocolate, that's pretty amazing. So,
well, yeah, chocolate and all the baked goods and all of the other Nestle products. Yeah, I mean, my job was to eat. Really,
I'm astounded. I would say probably quite a few people would have put on 100 pounds in that amount of time.
Yeah, easily. You could totally. Yeah, absolutely.
So why didn't you?
When I started to gain weight, I caught the train, and so I would get off one stop early and I would walk. It's about a 20-minute walk from that train station to my work. So I'd get off a stop early and then in the afternoons I would also walk back to that station, so that I was getting a bit of extra exercise. And then I also went to the gym, but not frequently. So, yeah. So
you're one of those gifted people that just doesn't really gain weight very easily, and you can take it off pretty easily when you do gain it?
No, I can gain. I just have to look at food and I can gain weight. I definitely gain weight easily, and losing weight is, well, because I don't really diet per se. So, you know, if I have a binge or whatever, you know, like if I go through a patch where I eat, bad food and I gain weight, then really I ramp up my exercise and I just change, I go back to sort of healthy, balanced eating.
Right.
So it's a much longer process. Like, people on diets, they lose 1 kilo a week, and I've never done that, ever. It's always been a really long process because I do it, I suppose, the right way.
Right. That's much more natural, is to do it slowly through. I mean, you could write the book. This is exactly what I teach people in my Live Fit program, is to do exactly what you're talking about. But with so many diets out there and the lure of, instant gratification, many, in fact, most women have been on a diet, and many men have. And the trouble is, this really throws off the natural balance of things hormonally and your thought process. So
exactly.
So you said also that you've never been on a diet. I am astounded. You're 38 years old, female.
36.
30. I'm so sorry. Slap me. I'm astounded. You're 36 years old. You're a female, and you've never been on a diet. That just blows me away.
Well, don't get me wrong. I have looked at diets and, longingly wanting to sort of give them a shot, or wanting to just drop 5 kilos because I've just decided that, being my normal body weight is not good enough, and I'm going through a bit of a self-hate stage or something. And I've looked at them, and to be honest, it's just too hard. Like, having 1 egg and a slice of toast for breakfast, and then eating salad for lunch, and then eating fish and salad for dinner, or something, say something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I would drop a lot of weight, but I know that I would also be starving, and I know when I'm hungry, I'm not a pleasant person. So, I've definitely looked and considered, and as a teenager, I never went on a diet, but I certainly was on a very restricted food intake at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I remember quite distinctly, I would say bordering on an eating disorder, because
Really?
I was 5'10", and I've got really broad shoulders, and I've got quite an athletic build, and I'm hanging out, as a teenager, I'm with all these girls that are sort of 5'2", 5'3", and a size 6 or a size 8, and here I am at that's Australian sizes, so that's like a size 2, a 0, and a size 2.
Oh, okay.
And then, being 5'10" and quite broad and athletic, and I'm wearing a size 8 to 10, American size 8 to 10.
Yeah.
I wanted to be that little tiny skinny thing. And so, as a teenager, I definitely restricted my food intake, but I wasn't dieting per se.
That's very interesting. So you still felt the pull, the allure of the diet, and the attractiveness of looking like the classic media-made attractive people, regardless of what your natural body type was. But you eventually pulled out of it. Was that because you graduated high school, or you wised up sometime while you were there?
I wised up while I was in high school. We have a subject, and it's a subject that now I teach, and it's called food technology, and there's a lot of nutrition and health, and we did a big thing on eating disorders when I was in about the 11th grade, and it just really hit home that I was sort of heading down that path, and I was my perfect BMI. My body mass index I was bang in the middle of it, and I was healthy, and it sort of just clicked, I suppose.
So the next thing you did after Nestle is you opened up a juice franchise, a juice bar, juice club.
So
what would you call it?
We called it Kick Juice Bars, and when I was 25, I got together with another person, and we set up a juice franchise company. So I guess the same kind of thing over there would be Jamba Juice. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
And so that would be the equivalent in the US, or
Wow.
Smoothie King. And so we did that, and I did that for about 4 years, and then I left and went on to bigger, better, brighter things, I think. We had 30 stores when I left, and
Wow.
I was pretty proud of my effort.
What did you start off with?
Started off with just one store and then built it from there, and we had a franchise network. So we had it in several states around Australia.
Wow. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It was an interesting time in my life, definitely. I learnt a lot.
There's sort of the trend is going away from sugary foods, sweet foods, even naturally sweet foods and drinks such as fruit juices. And is it the same in Australia?
Yeah, it is definitely. Finally, people, I think, are starting to realise that it's sugar that is the enemy, and it's refined sugar. I mean, the stats have it that the average Australian and America, where, Australia's pretty on par with the United States, and so the average Australian would eat about 165 pounds of sugar per year.
Jeez.
So, which is about 75 kilograms. I'm 5'10", and I weigh about 160 pounds. And so, yeah, it's 5 more pounds than what I actually weigh, which I find quite astonishing.
Wow. And that's not much less than I weigh either. So I can't imagine eating a pile of sugar the size of me.
Yeah, but I suppose if you sort of spread that out across 365 days, then I guess obviously it's a fairly easy thing to do. And that's an average. So you can imagine what people who are more, say, I could use the word addicted to sugar, or, people who just eat more sugary food, you can just imagine how much they're actually eating.
So but this figure is for processed sugar, not sugar from fruits and fruit juices, correct?
Correct. Yeah, this is a refined processed sugar. So this is the stuff that you find in your confectionery, what you find in your baked goods, even things like spaghetti sauces. And just the other day, I realized when I was reading the pack that the stock that we use for soup has sugar in it.
Oh.
I didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now back to the juices. I'm interested in what you feel about juices, because all these juice bars opened up with the sort of the thought that it was healthy, so you can get more nutrients in you because it's liquid, and it's a lot easier and more convenient to drink orange juice than to eat a bunch of oranges. How do you feel about that?
It's one of those things where I kind of think if you don't eat fruit and vegetables because it's just not your thing, or you haven't gotten yourself into that habit, then I think it's a good way to get the nutrients that you need.
Mm-hmm.
If you're someone who literally does not touch a carrot, then to put 2 carrots in with some orange juice is a good thing, But for people that have a balanced diet, I don't think that juices are necessary. I think they're a good snack, and they really do. They're very high in calories. So
they're high in sugar. Those calories are mostly sugar. That's
exactly right. So your average can of soda, I think, is about 160 calories roughly.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're to have an orange juice or an apple juice, even though it is fresh and squeezed right in front of you, you're looking at about exactly the same. So they are high in energy, so they really do need to be considered when if you're watching what you eat. They definitely need to be considered in your calorific intake for the day. Smoothies, they've got frozen yogurt in them. They've got quite a bit of refined sugar in the frozen yogurt.
Mm-hmm.
And really how much fruit goes into it. That's what you have to have a look at. In all honesty, not a lot of fruit goes in. So you're actually getting the flavour from your frozen yogurt, which is loaded with sugar.
Right. Yeah, I don't really have smoothies much, and I don't think I've been to Jamba Juice in probably 3 years or so, mostly because I started experiencing just major sugar rushes and then crashes from them, and it's too much sugar all at one time. And even though it's not coming from a can of Coke or a candy bar, it's still sugar.
That's right. And you're still buying like 32 ounce and 24 ounces of juice or smoothie. That's a lot. That is a significant volume. And when you consider the sugar that would be in that's why you're getting the sugar rushes and the sugar crashes.
Yeah, that's a lot of sugar. I had a client once come to me, and he had just finished a smoothie right as our personal training appointment started, and about 15 minutes into it, he was laying on the ground with no energy. He had a huge, major sugar crash, and he had no idea why, because he had just drank all that sugar. And I explained to him that his insulin was doing its job and taking that sugar out of his blood to normalize his blood sugar level. At the same time, he was demanding more sugar going to his muscles for his exercising. And so his sugar just plummeted in a really rapid period of time, when had he not had that juice, he would have been better.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So we were talking before, and you said that you did a juice fast. So on the heels of what we were just talking about juicing and it maybe not being all that healthy for you, you did a juice fast. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. At this time of year with, the new year, and everyone is sort of, I'm going to get fit, I'm going to get healthy. And then, of course, the flow-on effect from that is all of these fad diets. Now, I'm nearly 36. I turn 36 in a couple of weeks, and I've never been on a diet before. And I thought, why not give it a crack? I want to see what all the fuss is about. I want to see if what people say is really true. So I pulled out my juicer, and for 5 days, I had a juice for breakfast, a juice for lunch, and then in the evenings, because I just couldn't cope with not actually physically chewing something for a whole day,
Right.
I made myself vegetable soup. So I had just spring vegetable soup. I found a stock that I could use that had no sugar and no salt in it, and so I just used herbs and spices to flavour it, and so it was just essentially vegetables, and it was good, if I do say so myself.
Nice.
So anyway, after the first day, I felt rubbish, to put it frank. The first 2 days, it was pretty awful. I had headaches, and I just felt very lethargic. And I would attribute that to my body going into starvation mode.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, definitely. I don't drink a lot of coffee. I drink 1 coffee per day. And so there would definitely be a little bit of, my caffeine addiction sort of creeping in there. But 1 coffee a day is not particularly a lot. And then, but it was definitely my body going into starvation mode. By day 3, I felt great. And that would be because my body's sort of gotten used to what was going on. And over the entire time, so over the 5 days that I did it, I lost about 8 pounds.
Wow.
But
that was all fat, right?
Oh, yeah, no.
No?
Absolutely not. No. I still have my love handles. I still, I'm not some chisel cut sort of muscly girl. I'm fit and healthy and very active. But there was no fat loss whatsoever at all. It would have been fluid. My stomach was really flat, and that would be because simply I'm not digesting anything. So the first 2 days was my body just screaming at me. And then the last 3 days, I was hungry, and I had a flat stomach, but I didn't lose any fat whatsoever.
You probably lost some muscle mass.
Oh, absolutely. I got back on my bike because I wasn't really feeling up to doing a whole lot of exercise, and I got back on my bike, and I was amazed at how weak I felt.
Afterwards, you got on your bike, or did you do anything during?
Afterwards. I just went for short walks while I was doing it. And, another thing was my blood pressure just plummeted. So every time I'd stand up, I'd sort of go easy and start to black out and, all that kind of stuff. So that was pretty interesting too. There was one morning I jumped up to answer the door and nearly passed out. So
Wow.
Yeah. I don't necessarily recommend it.
Okay. Well, that's pretty interesting because, as you said, this is the time of year where there's just fasting mania or detoxing or cleansing mania. And I actually have a program as far as my program goes. My first week of my 9-week program uses a cleanse/reset. And it's not for weight loss. It's more for resetting your palate and sort of getting rid of some bad foods and empowering you that you can go without these kind of vices that people are so accustomed to eating, sugars and caffeines and alcohols and these other things. And if you can go a week without that, then you start putting in some other foods that are not on this cleanse list, and then they can eat more normally whatever they want to eat. And if they want to kind of weave caffeine and or alcohol back into it, that's fine. But it's really helpful this first week to just sort of bust that stuff out of your system, cleanse yourself out. And once again, it's not a body cleanse. It's more for your mind and your palate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really necessary if you are at a point where you need to reset what you are actually eating, then it really has to be quite dramatic, I think. And using your I've looked at your program and it's excellent. I think it's very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so after your, so you had this juice franchise, and you told me that the side of it didn't go too well, or it ended poorly, and so you took off to the United States to be a kind of a camp counselor to help underprivileged children or disabled children. I forget what you said.
Yeah, so my business partner and I didn't see eye to eye, so I decided that the best thing would be for me to leave. And I thought I needed a complete change of scene and a complete change of life, really, because I believe I wasn't heading down the right path.
Mm-hmm.
And so I moved to the United States and I went to Texas, and I worked at the Texas Lions Camp. And it's a camp run by the Lions Club of Texas. And it's a camp for kids with disabilities, diabetes, cancer.
Wow.
Just, different kind of physical disabilities. So, and it was an amazing, life-changing kind of experience where, you're with these kids for 5 days, and some of them are significantly disabled, physically disabled, but very mentally sharp. I learnt sign language. It was a fantastic.
So you're not just bilingual, you're trilingual.
Well, I wish I could say that, but
did you learn Texan also?
I did learn Texan, yes, I did. Although I tried not to slip into using the old y'all and all that kind of stuff, because my accent was certainly a powerful tool to get people's attention.
Can we hear your Australian Texas accent?
Oh, I don't know. Is that a bit embarrassing? Y'all have a good day now.
That was good. That was good. We over here in the U.S. do definitely like an Australian accent, so I imagine that you were able to get people to listen to you better than somebody who they're more accustomed to hearing from.
Right, and my fellow co-workers, when I worked at Texas Lions Camp first, and then I went and worked at a place called Mo Ranch, and my fellow workers there would always get me to address the students, because as soon as I started talking, everyone would fall silent and they would all just look at me and listen intently. Wow. Sometimes they couldn't understand me and my slang, but they usually would just completely, fall silent and do exactly what I said, because they were just enamored with my accent, which made me laugh. So, because I think I sound normal.
Well, you sound kind of normal to me because I'm used to it. What else did you do at the camps? You said you did ropes courses, I believe?
Yeah, so when I went to Mo Ranch, I was an outdoor education instructor there. So I learnt, firstly I was trained in how to do the high ropes and high elements. So things like zip lines, giant swings, those things that sort of challenge you. Yeah. And we did rock climbing, and I taught kids canoeing and kayaking, and we went on nature hikes and, talked about the environment and all that kind of stuff. So it was all very outdoorsy, but essentially what most schools came for was to challenge their students and to get them sort of out of their comfort zone and learning to do something different and, having a great time while they're doing it.
And what age was this?
Everything from the 5th grade up to the 12th grade, but we mostly sort of, our program mostly concentrated on the 6th, 7th and 8th grade.
Cool. So you were able to help show these people that they could do things that they didn't think they could do.
Yeah, I think one thing that I found truly stunning and fascinating was that I would take my little group and we'd go to the rock wall, and I'd get some kids to be like, oh, no, I can't do this. And I'm like, well, have you ever done it before? And they're like, no, but, my dad said that I'd never be able to climb this, so I'm not going to do it. And of course, to me, that's like a red flag to a bull to me. So I'm like, well, why don't we give it a go? So, and, you'd get these kids to the top of this rock wall, and for some kids, they'd sprint up there and be up there in a minute. And for other kids, it might take them 10 minutes. Right. But when they got to the top and they had this realization that they could actually do something that they were told that they couldn't do, it was an incredible experience for them and for me as well, getting them to the top and helping them to believe and to learn to believe in themselves.
Well, it's really sad when a parent who is supposed to help guide a child to be a good adult gives them limiting beliefs.
Absolutely, and it's so common. I'm a teacher now, and it's so common to hear a kid say, "Oh no, I can't do that because, my mum said this or my dad said that," and I suppose I don't know if you've ever heard the term helicopter parent, where it's the parent that hovers. Mm-hmm. The society is full of helicopter parents who just, oh no, don't do that because you might hurt yourself, or don't do that because you might fall over, or don't do, and it's like, no, let them go out and experience, and let them fall over and skin their knee and come to you and get some love, and and they learn. You learn through your failure, you learn through your success, and so why not give the kids the option to have success instead of saying, oh no, you can't do that.
I totally agree. I thoroughly agree. Learn through failure, but fall forward so you get back up and learn from it, and hopefully not make the same mistake twice.
Right. Exactly.
So, what's the kind of the health climate like in Australia now? Is it similar to the U.S., where you have kind of a large amount of people eating the convenience foods and doing as little physical activity as possible, and then you have a few of the fringe people who are quite the opposite? Or is there kind of any big direction in one way or the other, or do you just see a bunch of smattering of everything?
Australia really follows hot on the heels of the United States. Our obesity epidemic is forever growing. We are set to, I think it's in about 10 years' time. I think in a decade's time, I remember reading that Australian adults, 80% of them will be overweight or obese.
80%?
80%. And that's hot on the heels of the United States.
Yeah,
we're just like you guys. We sort of have the two polars. We have the, lots of overweight and obese people, and then we have our, lots of healthy, fit and active people as well. So, it's sort of, we're very, very similar. There's really not a lot of difference between the two countries in that respect. So Australia's kind of like America's little brother. So there's only 22 million of us, but we like to think that we're just like you.
Well, that's cool. I've been over there and I loved it. If I had to leave this country and live in another country, it would be a toss-up between Canada and Australia because they're so similar.
Yeah. Where I live in Darwin, it's a little bit different. Obviously, every single day is hot, unless we're having a cyclone, which is the equivalent to a hurricane. Mm-hmm. Then, like I said, every single day is 90 plus degrees. So Darwin is quite an active place. With the statistics of cycling, because I'm into cycling, more women in Australia from Darwin cycle than sort of anywhere else, and more people in Darwin cycle to work than anywhere else in Australia. So we in Darwin, we sort of skew more to the active side because of the weather, although once again, because it is so hot all the time, and particularly at the moment, we're in we really have two seasons, the wet season and the dry season. And the wet season is when we have our cyclones and lots of rain, and it's very hot and very, very humid. So even I kind of am reluctant at times to go out and exercise because I'm just like, oh, it's just so hot outside. But in the dry season, which it's still 90 degrees during the day, but the humidity is really low. It's just beautiful, sunny every single day, and you can't get me off the cycling tracks and the running tracks and all that kind of stuff. So, whilst Darwin is quite an active place, it also polarizes people as well because they're like, oh, I don't want to sweat. Not that I see anything wrong with sweating, but
sweating's good for you. And I would like to just jump right in and tell everybody that in case they don't know already, you wrote a couple of blog articles for my website. And one of them addressed the issue of people who don't want to sweat and they don't want to do anything because they would work up a sweat. And it sounds like you're going to sweat no matter what.
Oh, yeah. I'm sitting here right now and sweating up a storm. So,
wow.
Yeah.
quite different worlds we're in right now too.
Yeah,
and I'm about to eat dinner, and I think you probably just had breakfast, right?
I'm coming up to lunchtime. Yeah.
Lunchtime. Okay. But I will put links of your two blog articles that you wrote on my site in the show notes page. And I'll also have some other information about you in case anybody wants to contact you, and some notes on what we've talked about here. But I have one last question for you.
Sure.
And I ask everybody this. What motivates you to be fit and eat healthy?
I cast my mind forward to when I'm 65, so I'm about to turn 36, so in about 30 years' time.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be that person who is fit, active, healthy, and free of disease. I don't want to be the person who is always at the doctor's, who needs medication for their blood sugar, who needs medication for their heart, who needs medication for their blood pressure. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the person who is draining the medical system. I want to be the person who can get out and live my life and live it healthy and free from disease. That's my motivation.
That is awesome. That's great motivation. Okay, well, Caralyn, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing a bit about your life and your philosophy and what you're doing and what you've done.
Well, it's been really great. Thank you very much. And yeah, if you have any questions or whatever, just get in touch. Have a great day.
And it was great talking to you too as well, Caralyn. And now I'd like to give you this week's question of the week. Which burns more calories, sleeping or watching TV for the same length of time? The answer to that will come in next week's episode number 13. Until then, please visit livefitlean.com for complete show notes and articles. Until next time, live fit.
Thanks for listening to the Live Fit podcast. You